One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet whom millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Saturday, Salute to the Military edition, 250th year Salute to the Military. Hope you like that new, I guess I'd just call it a pre-show. You guys got to see some, what goes on back here as I'm getting ready. It was so funny. Somebody said, whatever you do, don't stand up. We know you don't have any pants on. How did you know? How did you know? And the music that I played today, I didn't feel like blasting out some happy music. I didn't plan on, trying to make light of things that are going on in the world right now. It's too scary, too devastating. So before I start off, let me just first be I'm not be the first person. Let me start off this show by saying I'm praying for the families of those victims in Minnesota. I'm praying for the families in both countries, in Israel and Iran. There are a lot of innocent people on both sides who are going to potentially be in harm's way. And I think we just have to remember them. I'm not the innocent people, the people who have no control over the bombs being, tossed aside. Those are the people who just, they need our help, but they don't need our soldiers. I am not at all advocating that we get involved in that war. So I got a whole bunch of stuff to cover with you today. Got to really compress it and make sure the time works. But here's what the schedule is as of right now. I'm going to try and keep with it. We just finished the pre-show. We're on Showtime. Going to talk about some breaking news. Then I have an interview with Derek Maltz, a former DEA advisor. Then a 6 o'clock interview with Kevin Demerit. And then 6:30, the actual parade starts. So lots going on. We're going to be here till 9:30. So next 4.5 hours. So settle in, do what you need to do. Leave, come back, whatever. We'll be here. So let's talk about something that happened today. First, I do want to make a little light of something. This whole No Kings protest thing, Of course it's just for the blue cities. Of course it's just where the nutbags hang out. They tried to make this some sort of national protest with 1,800 and 2,000 locations. It was going to be amazing. And so, you know, the person that I am, I decided I'm going to go out. I'm going to go take some video and find out what's happening, as they had one here in Boca. Some of you guys may have seen this already, but I'm going to show you my on the street, man on the street report from the protest here in Boca. Okay, so I'm undercover. I'm going to the big No Kings protest down here in Boca. And I've got to really make sure they don't see where I park or how I'm driving in, so they don't like scratch up my car or anything. But I'm going to take you along for the ride, and we're going to go to the location where the venue is down here at James Rutherford Park down here in Boca. I want y'all to see. I want you to make sure you understand this. You know, I don't have a newspaper or anything. Oh, yeah, I do. I've got my dashboard, so you can actually see what time it is, right? So we're going to show you what time it is specifically right now so you can see. So there's my watch. I don't know if you can see my watch, but you know what? I'll turn it around and we'll look at, yeah. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to show you my dashboard so you can see what time it is. So you know I didn't fake this video. All right, so let's go ahead and turn it around. Let me see if it'll turn around for me here. All right, so there's my dashboard. You can see it's June 14th, 2025. And up here, you can see the time. The time is right now 10:39 a.m. So that means over here to the park, it started at 9 a.m. So it should, and it's a beautiful day out here in Boca. I mean, the sun is shining. It's beautiful. Let's go see if we can find some knuckleheads, okay? So I'm going to back up. I'm going to drive in so you guys can see yourself. See for yourself. Okay, here we're going to do a little drive-by, a little sneak attack on these people. All right, so here we go, and I'm turning around from the parking space. Let's head to the park and see what these people are doing on a bright Saturday morning here in Boca Raton, Florida. Heading to the protest. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we can't find some knuckleheads somewhere around here. Should be a whole packed bunch of people. So I'm going to turn here, and we're going to head into the park. I believe it's called James Rutherford Park. It's actually a beautiful park back here. If you guys ever make it to South Florida and Boca, it's a very nice place with a walkway, and the walkway goes over like a swampy area. You might see some gators once in a while. All right, so we're heading into the park. Oh, there's a caution sign here. Caution sign says, let's see if you can see it. Welcome to James A. Rutherford Park. Park hours 8 a.m. to sunset, pavilions, walking trains, grills. I don't see the sign that says nut jobs, but maybe we'll run into some nut jobs as we drive along. Don't feed the nuts. Don't feed the nuts. Still looking. Driving along the road here, as you can see. Not seeing much of anything yet. Never know with these people. I might get attacked. This might be dangerous. Uh-oh, we got something here. We got something going on. I see signs of activity. No, these are people carrying surfboards and stuff like that. Wakeboards. I guess he's going to go out in the water and do some stuff around the alligators or something. Yeah, this guy here, a wakeboard. There's some people with their little kid. Shouldn't bring a kid to a protest rally. Nope, it's too dangerous. Let's continue to drive on. I'm seeing a protest type vehicle. It's all beat up. Maybe that's a protester. Anyway, I'm driving and I'm looking, and I'm almost at the park location. And wow, this place is absolutely mobbed with protesters. Not a single one. Nothing. Nobody. Imagine my surprise. I'm here in Boca at the No Kings protest, and there's nobody here. Let's get out. Let's get out and walk around. Nobody here. Nobody. Look, there are the bathrooms at the pavilion. There's some of the people at the pavilion. There's nobody here. There's a playground in case some of the nuts want to, go play or something. Oh, there's a couple with their child just sitting there. I doubt they're here for this. Huh, very interesting. No people. None at all. There's somebody's coming now, but I don't think he's a protester. Anybody? There's nobody here. Nobody. Let me see if I can get his attention. Where are the protesters? Where are the protesters? Where are all the protesters? Protesters. You see any protesters out here?
No.
No? None? Huh. All right. I thought there was supposed to be protests. Oh, they're out there. Ah, okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Yeah, there's nobody here. No, none. Not a single person. Looks like a drive-by. People are pulling up. Maybe these are a couple people that want to protest. I don't know. She can ask me a question. I think they're just here to have fun. Nothing going on whatsoever. Imagine my surprise. I'm out here at the biggest protest in United States history, and there's no one here. Not one person. Not a few. None. Zero. Amazing. I don't know. They're not here. Not in Boca. I'm driving back out. I'm wondering where they are. Not a single protester. Families having fun in the park. Other people walking on the boardwalk, having fun. Lovers, couple here. They don't look like your ordinary, protester. Oh, that's so sweet. He gave her a nice little kiss. That's not a protester. They were just working out, just walking on the boardwalk. Nothing. Nada. Not one single protester showed up. It's no wonder the city gave them this permit back here. The people probably didn't realize this park is so far removed. It's so in the woods. Nobody would even care if you had a protest back here. Nobody would ever see it. If a protest falls in the woods, does anyone ever know about it? I doubt it. All right, so let me see. Somebody said that they didn't like being way back here in the actual park that they had a permit for, so that they were out here standing on the corner of the street. Let me see. Oh, yeah, it's a huge protest. They decided to abandon the park, and they were going to go make their noise using their clan dankers all out here on the side of the road. Let's see how many of them are. Oh, there's a whole bunch. There's like 6. Oh, there's 5 or 6 of them. They're just out there doing nothing. Oh my God, this is pathetic. This is absolutely pathetic. Look at them. Oh, that's it. That's the entirety of the protest. Oh, but look what the counter protest shows up. That's what we're talking about, people. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. You know what those guys were? That's Trump supporters. Trump supporters. All right, everyone. That was a huge failure. A huge swing and a miss for the protesters, the anti-Trumpers. And the best part about it is the Trumpers have taken over the city. This is a red city. It is what it is. Sorry, it ain't gonna work here. We're not putting up with that crap. Nope, ain't gonna happen. All right, so everybody, I'm gonna post this probably on Twitter, X as they call it. And then we'll see you at 6 o'clock tonight for the rally. Unless, of course, Robin and I go to the boat parade, which is highly likely at this point that we will be going to the boat parade, be amongst other Trumpsters. So I'll talk to you then. But if on the way home I see more protesters, I may then indeed, stop. But I came all the way down here, probably a 20-minute ride from my house, to see 12 people and zero, not a single person in the park. So, whatever you're going to see nationwide, guess what? It ain't happening here, baby. Nope, not in South Florida. Sorry. Hate to burst a bubble. This is Trump territory. Or as like Jussie Smollett said, this is MAGA country, bitches! I really did go down there trying to start some trouble. And there was nobody there. And I wasn't going to go and mess with the 10 old people again. No green hairs, no nose rings, nothing. And then we couldn't get to the boat parade because where they were doing it was north of us up in West Palm Beach off the Intercoastal near Mar-a-Lago. We'll probably get some video for that tomorrow or later on today, which would have been about a 30-minute ride, and I had to get back and get ready for this show. So I don't know where you live. I all I can tell you is what I see specifically on the ground here. Maybe that's why everybody's moving to Florida. Because I don't know if you saw what happened with the sheriff yesterday. The sheriff said, you come down here and mess up. Well, Ron DeSantis already gave us the green light to run people over. So go ahead and block the road, and you're just going to be roadkill. You're going to be no different than a gator, a snake, or whatever. We're going to... Oh, what was that, honey? I don't know, protester. Keep going. Don't care. Oh, don't care. Where's my don't care lady? Because we don't care what you guys are doing up there. Don't care whatsoever. Let me just show you how much I don't care.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. Life, I know sometimes when I tell you guys how life is different down here, and people sometimes like, Barry, is it really that much? It's a whole lot different. We don't cater to those idiots. In fact, those pickup trucks that you saw with the big, flags and MAGA flags and everything, up and down the roads everywhere. There is no doubt when you get into South Florida where you are. There may be little pockets of idiots, but they don't dare pop up and do the crazy stuff like they do, elsewhere. The other sheriff, not Grady Judd, the other sheriff said, you know what? You throw a brick, do something stupid, you got to call your next of kin because we ain't, pow, you're done. So, that being said, talking about pow, you're done. You like that segue? I'm doing like the network thing where, you laugh about stuff, then you got to go into the somber look. Well, it is somber. I mean, they own this. The Democrats 150% own what happened in Minnesota. So, let me bring you up to speed if you haven't yet heard for some reason. They passed a law in Minnesota. And that law in Minnesota was that newcomers can't be getting, I think it was health insurance. We're getting the Medicare, whatever it is, just for Minnesota. They were giving it to everybody. And then they passed a law saying, no, if you're not from here, you don't get none. The problem with it is it pissed off some of the nuts. And one of the nuts, in order to get it passed, they needed some Democrats to cross the table, across the aisle, and actually vote for it. So a woman, one of the senators, state senator, you could almost see it in her eyes. I want you to listen as she talks here and look at her. She almost realizes, am I in trouble? Are they going to come for me? Let's listen.
The debate was emotional and at times very personal for some of them, and there were concerns that the fierce pushback could derail the deal.
What I worry about is the people who will lose their health insurance. I know that people will be hurt by that vote, and we worked very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision. And we tried any other way we could to come to a budget agreement with Republicans, and they wouldn't have it.
So you can almost see her sadness that I didn't want to do it, but I had to vote with my heart. I had to do it. I had to cut these illegals out of health care. We had to make this state correct. I am here for the people of Minnesota. Didn't matter. So they actually were hit. Somebody, they now have a suspect. I'm not going to name his name because they may think I'm doing something by giving out doxing or something. But the guy dresses up like a cop, goes to their house, knocks on the door, and when they open the door, boom, boom. He went to that much of an extent. And then wait till you find out who this guy actually, or who the alleged guy actually is. But take a listen to this.
Their home in the suburbs of Minneapolis. State Senator John Hoffman and his wife also shot in their home not too far away. Both have undergone surgery, expected to survive. Officials say the suspect was impersonating a police officer and now believed to be on foot. He was last seen in Brooklyn Park, where there is an active shelter-in-place order. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz now recommending people that not attend any political rallies in the state today until that suspect is caught. We know one event in Minneapolis has already been canceled as thousands gather around the country for the anti-Trump No Kings protest. Joining me now is investigative reporter Olivia Rubin, senior White House correspondent Selena Wang, and former NYPD Chief of Detectives Bob Boyce. Olivia, I want to start with you. We're learning some new details as well. The suspect allegedly had a hit list of other Democratic leaders.
Officials said at the press conference earlier, Morgan, that they had found a list inside of that car that he had at one of the lawmakers' homes. Remember, they said that it looked like a police cruiser with lights flashing, and now sources are telling us a bit more about exactly who was on that list that was found in the car. They're saying that it included multiple Democratic lawmakers, both at the state and the federal level.
Think about that. This nut job wasn't done. He had a hit list, and they were all Democrats. And wait till I hope they say who it is. If not, I'll tell you. But he wasn't done. He was going on a spree.
That included Governor Tim Walz, who we heard speaking earlier today. It includes the Democratic State Attorney General Keith Ellison. It also includes Congressman Ilhan Omar, who, of course, is quite outspoken and known from that state, and another senator from Minnesota, Tina Smith. So those are high-level, notable names. We're also told that investigators are looking into whether or not this suspect or person of interest was possibly motivated by extreme views on abortion. So a little bit more coming out about...
You see, they didn't know, and they're trying... At this point, when they did this broadcast, they didn't know that this guy was actually an absolute nut job on their side. So they quickly they wanted to pivot and say, oh yeah, he's got extreme views on baby removal, indicating, wink wink, it must be Trump, right? It must be a Trump supporter. No Democrat would ever go after Ilhan Omar and Tim Walz. No, it has to be one of those red hat wearing nuts. They stepped in this one.
Who this individual could have been targeting and perhaps why. But again, we've heard from law enforcement that this is a rapidly developing situation. They are getting more information, and they are also learning as they go.
Certainly concerning issue. You said the governor of Minnesota also on that list as well. Liv, hang with me for a second. I want to go to Bob because, Bob, what's being done now to protect the other politicians that Olivia just mentioned that are on this list?
Morgan, everybody on this list right now is being protected by police, law enforcement, and probably the FBI as well. More likely the FBI. They're beyond that initial grid right now. This just happened at 3:30 in the morning. So now we're past that grid that they had locked down. We're looking for this individual in many places. I believe they have, as they said, they have a POI. So this seems to be they have this individual identified. Now is they have to find him and see how much planning he did in the aftermath of this attack. Those officers who engaged at that second house today probably saved lives of other politicians, other elected officials, on that list. Because that person looked like there was no stop to him. Initially, law enforcement does have people imitating us, and that's the problem. It's a big problem everywhere in the country. And this person planned this out to do this last night.
And Bob, while I have you, how concerning is it that not only is he impersonating this officer,
All right, so they were on this early, and they thought, with no evidence, nothing, they were going to blame this on, an extreme right-wing person. That right there shows you how the news just literally makes stuff up. They don't even wait to hear any further. They're going to just insert right away, let everybody know it had to be a right-wing nut job. Complete lie. I don't know how this woman goes on television, the woman who said that, anymore. So now I want to show you the press conference with the police chief. I believe he's police chief.
Hi, Ken. Good morning. Police Chief Mark Bruley, Brooklyn Park Police Department. The question is, how did we get to Representative Hortman's house, and it was proactively or not. The circumstances that unfolded in Brooklyn Park this morning is that we assisted the Champlin Police Department on a shooting. That shooting was made aware by one of our sergeants that it was at Senator Hoffman's home. In hearing that very intuitive sergeant asked our officers to go check on Melissa Hortman's home, a representative that lives in our community, just proactively as due diligence to swing by. That police officer and his partner pulled down the street when they arrived at Melissa's house. They noticed that there was a police vehicle in the driveway with the lights, emergency lights on, and what appeared to be a police officer at the door coming out of the house. When our officers confronted him, the individual immediately fired upon the officers, who exchanged gunfire, and the suspect retreated back into the home.
Is this an actual police officer or an impersonating police officer?
Yes, the question is, was it a real person or a person impersonating a police officer? It was not a real police officer. This is somebody that clearly had been impersonating a police officer, again, using the trust of this badge and this uniform to manipulate their way into the home.
Now, I would love to talk to Maximus and a couple of my law enforcement guys. This is a little bit deep. You're talking about a guy who got a siren, bought the actual type of police car, got the uniform, went up to this house with lights on, knocks on the door, pow pow. That's a hit. This person spent a lot of time going through and putting all of this together. I can't wait as I dig into this more.
The person not only was wearing a badge, posing as a police officer, when they approached their victims, they had a car with lights and sirens?
Yes, the question is what kind of vehicle, how were they dressed? They did drive a vehicle that looked exactly like an SUV squad car. It was equipped with lights, emergency lights that looked exactly like a police vehicle. And yes, they were wearing a vest with taser, other equipment that would, a badge very similar to mine, that no question, if they were in this room, you would assume that they are a police officer.
After that played out, he said, into the home, and then can you hold 10-15 minutes of
Yeah, briefly, although I'm just going to remind us that this is an absolutely active investigation. We have thousands of people sheltered in place in the city of Brooklyn Park right now. We are in an extensive manhunt involving hundreds and hundreds of police officers and SWAT teams searching, gridding off areas, as we believe confidently the suspect had fled out the back of the house after being confronted by the police. Very briefly, after the officers had exchanged gunfire and the suspect retreated into Melissa's home, they immediately went up to the threshold and looked in and seen a male that was down, clearly had been struck by gunfire. They made limited penetration, grabbed a hold of the male and drug him out to safety to attempt first aid. However, he was pronounced dead shortly after that. At that point, the officers surrounded the house, got additional resources and SWAT resources, and then ultimately went in with a drone identifying a female in the home.
So this guy went in two different houses. This house he's referring to, he killed both of the people in the house. Really, really bad, man. This is unbelievable. I want to show you some stuff. Some people have been talking about it. Namely, first person is President Trump. President Trump said this. Let me get to that screen so I can show it to you real quick. And President Trump says, I have been briefed on the terrible shooting that took place in Minnesota, which appears to be targeted attack against state lawmakers. Our Attorney General Pam Bondi and the FBI are investigating the situation, and they will be prosecuting anyone involved to the fullest extent of the law. Such horrific violence will not be tolerated in the United States of America. God bless the great people of Minnesota. Prosecution. At this point, obviously the guy who shot the people, but was this guy, I don't know, part of a bigger organization? Was he a part of the so-called deep state, or was he just some nut that they gaslit, did some MK Ultra stuff on it? Some interesting things came up as people have been digging and digging and digging. And I don't know if it's Laura Loomer, I couldn't find the exact source, but Betty posted this and says that turns out that the Minnesota shooting suspect, that's his name, I'm not going to say it because of them, his wife interned for Tim Waltz in 2010. That's odd. That's very odd, isn't it? And then a second post that has now been exposed says that the suspected Minnesota shooter was appointed by Tim Waltz, and somehow he went from a general manager at 7-Eleven to the CEO of an international NGO called Red Lion Group in the Congo. That would be Africa. There's almost no public info about the NGO except that it reportedly ran out of funding. And here's his resume. As you can see here, he worked as a 7-Eleven GM from April 2016 to November 2021. Then in December of 2021 until now, he's been the CEO of some NGO. And now what's going to happen is people are going to start digging, and they're going to want to see, was this guy on the USAID payroll? Did he flip out because the money stopped? Don't know. But now, Pam, Cash, Dan, you got some digging to do. And I bet you the Data Republican, she'll have some stuff pretty quick as to what's going on with this. And then Waltz, who's got to be pooping his pants right now, said this.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye, just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared. To be clear, there's no way for us to know whether they were actually criminals or not. It's not hyperbole to say we're not far from a world where anyone could get that knock at a door. And there's no guarantee you'd get your day in court, or that you'd ever make it home alive from whatever corner of the world they stick you in. Now, if Trump and his folks want to come for Minnesotans, we need to make sure that there's a firewall that they have to come through before they get to them.
Now, obviously, that wasn't after the shooting, but that was what there's so many videos out there right now where this guy was basically promoting violence. Oh, when they're mean, we got to be meaner, is one of the things he said. And this was at a college graduation, that last thing he said. These people are nuts, and now they're starting to see, look, maybe we should turn it down a few notch. Maybe we've gone a little bit too far. You think? Too late now. This is from CNN.
Well, the car is a treasure trove of clues and potential clues, not just forensically, but things in plain sight. What we're told from law enforcement sources briefed on the investigation is that there are a cache of additional weapons inside that car, indicating that the suspect was loaded for additional targets, possible confrontations with law enforcement or security, a large amount of ammunition. In an ammunition bag, they found a Father's Day card, presumably addressed to the suspect. But there is also this manifesto which lays out his issues, and on top of that, a very, very long list of names, approximately 70 names. This includes numerous state legislators from Minnesota, but it also includes other elected officials, a couple of mayors. It includes other places in Minnesota, including medical clinics, abortion providers, pro-life advocates, and it includes some locations and individuals from out of state. What does that tell us? It poses the question of what was the ultimate game plan? Was it to continue to get through this list, to go as far down with as many attacks or assassinations as possible until he was stopped by police? What we know now is that at his first location, he did his first attack in the pre-dawn hours of the morning in the darkness, that preemptively police went to the second location where the nearest other elected state official was and ran straight into the suspect. The Brooklyn Park, Minnesota police exchanged shots with the individual, which caused him to flee towards the house and then into the darkness. But that also made him leave that car, all of that evidence, and potentially part of his plan behind. Now, with the idea that they exchanged gunfire, the fact that he was described as wearing a tactical vest, probably body armor, likely bullet resistant, he may be wounded, or the vest may have deflected that, but he is with whatever weapons he had on him, without a vehicle, and still theoretically on the move somewhere in that area that he could have gotten by foot, or perhaps called an associate or a friend to pick him up. So that hunt is still extraordinarily intense.
Yeah, it really is indeed very intense. All right, John, thanks so much. Veronica.
All right, so SV just sent me some breaking news. I can't show it to you, but I'll show you how you can get to it. Because it's very, well, I won't say it's graphic, but it's too graphic for the censors here. So let me just show you this here. It says, just in, security cam images show the guy, and that guy's name, knocking on the Minnesota lawmaker's door wearing a latex mask. So just think about that. Not only did he have police gear on it, not only does he have a bulletproof vest on, not only does he have a police car with lights and sirens on it, he's also wearing a latex head mask. That's a lot of stuff to go through if you're just some ordinary nut. He obviously thought he was going to get away. And so, it says wearing a latex mask and security guard uniform meant to look like a police officer. You can even see the police lights from his security vehicle flashing. This is terrifying. All right, so many of you guys are on X. You can go to Nick Sortor's page. You can see this, and it's disturbing to say the least. And the reason why I can't show it is he seems to be holding a weapon, and if you show weapons on this platform, they immediately have a problem with it. But he's holding a weapon. He's holding a flashlight. He's got a latex mask on, looking like a bald guy, and he absolutely must have known what he was doing. This is absolutely frightening, especially if you're in Minnesota. This is crazy. Okay, so let me continue with this, trying to stay on time. I'm a little bit behind time. So after that, now they're playing, catch up, and the people. The people in MSNBC land in Crazy Town, they're trying to cover it up.
By the overwhelming majority of Americans, regardless of political party and regardless of who the subject of the assassination is. That's a very red line that'll be crossed. And I wonder if some of these protests around the country, including yours, whether that's a unifying force, where people are going to come out and say, we want our democracy a certain way. We have the right to protest. It's a First Amendment right. We don't cross lines into political violence.
Yeah, I would hope so. I would hope that this is a unifying moment, but unfortunately, as we've seen time and time again, it usually isn't. We have too many people and too many elected officials, including the current occupant of the White House, who escalates rhetoric and violent rhetoric against political opponents, and that leads to these kinds of tragic events. It is...
They can't help themselves. It's Trump's fault. I love the fact, not of the crime or anything, but I love the fact that their initial reaction is to blame everything on Trump. Just come out the box, it's Trump's fault. Trump did it, Trump did it, Trump did it. Never even waiting for the facts. It's Trump's fault. It makes them look so stupid.
Absolutely unacceptable, and every single elected official should be condemning this, regardless of their political party. But I don't have the greatest hope for some people to actually come out and do that, unfortunately.
I'm not laughing at the situation. I'm laughing at these people who are just bat poop crazy. Absolutely nuts as they want to do these protests. Let me just show you how nuts they are. It's funny. Ashley is a former teacher. I love that it's former. This is Brandy Weingarten. This is at a rally in Philadelphia where they're holding their rally today. This is her reaction to, Trump and everybody.
Philly, you are the community to this president's chaos. And together, we build a future of opportunity and justice for all. Hope over fear, aspiration over anger, the promise of America for each and every American. That is what we are fighting for today.
Oof. Oof, oof, oof. Turn back the rhetoric, dial down the anger, not possible. So many things have been taken away from them. If now they're leaders, if the guys like Hakeem Jeffries who came out and said, we got to tone things down. Too late. Too late. That's like one of the few things that they have is insanity. Look at some of this insane stuff. This is from Laura Loomer. This is at Washington. I hope you can hear what they're chanting. It's very important that you hear what they're saying. Okay, in case you can't hear what they're saying, as they're trying to block the road into the White House, is they're saying 86-47. So much for dialing it back, huh? 86-47. That was the weirdest flag I've ever seen. Hold on a second. Let me rewind that because that's a picture I got to see. Wait a second. Okay. What in the heck is that? An upside down United States flag with some of the states crossed off turned into a Pride Month flag. Hold on. What in the heck is that? What is that? I just can't with these people. But you get the point. More and more the same. But I feel bad because some of these people are absolutely insane.
I'm just so scared. I'm 74 years old. I worry about everything, and I just am so scared and upset, and I don't understand why people voted for this person.
Pray for these people. She could have stopped her sentence after I don't understand. I don't understand That would have been it. That maybe we... I don't understand. What in the hell is wrong with you people? The media has gotten these people to a point where they really do think he's the second coming of Hitler. They really do think we're Nazis and fascists. They really do believe it. They've whipped these people into thinking we're basically the Third Reich. How do you fix that? Again, like I said, and I'm trying to drive it home here, this is not something you can vote out. Nope, can't happen. This is not something you can prosecute your way out of. Nope, can't happen. They are too far gone. There are certain huge number of people in this country who are never coming back. We can think, well, maybe we can talk them in, some sense into them, or maybe we can show them, here's how you live a better life. You tell me how. You tell me how it's even possible to talk to this woman and make her feel okay. She's terrified. Absolutely terrified.
I'm just so scared. I'm 74 years old. I worry about everything, and I just am so scared and upset, and I don't understand why people voted for this person.
My heart goes out to her. I actually have empathy. I feel sorry for her. She has been screwed over by the Democrats in the media. My heart goes out to those people in Minnesota. Some guy, whether he was paid or he went crazy, decided he wanted to go on a spree, spurred on by the politicians and the media. Are we doing this? So how can you say we're the ones in a cult when you're the ones who are acting completely nutty? Here, let me show you this. If I can pull this down. Where is it? This was just one of the most amazing things I've seen. Okay, here. This is a video I can just show you. I don't have to download it. Okay, so this is Dallas Morning News. Dozens of women dressed as handmaidens silently walked through downtown as a part of March of Dissent before a No Kings protest against policies of the Trump administration. So, look at these people. But we're in a cult. We're cultists. They're never coming back, people. They are never, ever, ever coming back. These people are lost forever. Their minds have just gone awry. George posted something that was very interesting. George posted that the Texas state capitol has been evacuated due to credible threats against the lawmakers from the No Kings protesters. Wait a second. You just shot up Minnesota, and now you're like, we got to evacuate the facility here in Dallas because they're going crazy again. Unbelievable. My phone is like going off. Looking at something, they say Trump is now en route to the parade. Make sure I didn't miss anything else. People are sending me Instagram stuff, all kinds of things. But it's absolutely crazy what's going on. And it's only 4.5, 5 months in. It just doesn't get any worse than these people here. This is crazy. All right, so I got to move on because I got to get these interviews in. I've got it's crazy, absolutely crazy. It's stunning to me what has happened to people. Absolutely stunning. All right, so next thing up here, let me go ahead and talk to you. Bring on, this is a former DEA administrator, might have been a DEA secretary. Let's go ahead and do this interview, and I will be back. I think you guys will like this. Hey everybody, I got a great interview for you today. I've got Derek Maltz Sr., who's a former acting DEA administrator, and he's a retired director of special ops. We're going to talk, there's a whole lot that's relevant to what this discussion can be, given what's happened just last night. Mr. Maltz, thank you for coming on. We got a whole bunch we can go over, and I'm sure your experience dovetails perfectly into what we're seeing happening around the world.
Thank you so much, Barry. I'm glad to be here.
So, first and foremost, Israel and Iran. I know that may not be everything in terms of DEA stuff, but what's your thoughts on what we're seeing happening with Israel and Iran today?
So, first of all, we did work in the DEA infiltrating Hezbollah's global money laundering and drug trafficking network. So I'm aware of how they get funding to support, the Iranian weapon of mass destruction program using criminal proceeds. So I applaud the efforts of Israel to stand up strong. We can't have anyone in America, in the world, talking about, death to America, death to Israel. That's unacceptable, so they have to be held accountable.
Oh, absolutely. It's crazy. And Israel was quite surgical with their approach. And President Trump had warned them, you got 60 days to get your acts together. And on the 61st day, Israel dropped the hammer. So in regards to everything that happened over there, now you have to start wondering about protection here. And with all the craziness that's been going on with our border over the last 4 or 5 years, do you see there being much of a threat for terrorism or uprising from whoever has been brought into this country across the border for the last couple of years?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at over, millions and millions of illegal aliens came into this country. But what's really scary, Barry, is the amount of the gotaways, the known gotaways, people that had paid extra money to get in here. The cartels escorted them into America, and they didn't want to be fingerprinted. They didn't want to talk to Border Patrol. So those are the ones that concern me. But, the thing that people in America don't realize, and you look behind me, you can see all these dead Americans from the fentanyl poisoning. So we've been absolutely inundated with cartel poisonous drugs with the CCP and the networks in China behind it. But now what you have is the media in America has deliberately told half the story or 1/10 of the story. The fashion district in LA is the known hotbed for money laundering for the Mexican cartels. 10 years ago, there was actually about $90 million in cash that was seized because 1,000 law enforcement agents, ICE, HSI, DEA, FBI, they went after the money laundering activities in the garment district. Because what they do, Barry, they collect millions of dollars in cash around America. They bring the cash to the garment district. They bring it into the businesses. They create these trade-based money laundering schemes. They put together a $100 million order of jeans and sneakers and clothes. They ship it to Mexico, and they launder the money. So what people are not talking about is that ICE and these agents that went out there on the raid on June 6th, they were going out there to, disrupt a cartel network. These are terrorists now. So the people in America are not getting the truth. What Americans should be doing is thanking ICE and thanking law enforcement for keeping us all safe.
So I didn't even know what you said. So it was a surgical raid to go at the heart of the money laundering? That's how this whole thing started?
So, okay, go back to 2014. It's all over the internet. I posted it today. There was $90 million seized in the LA district. My understanding, I'm not actively working in the on the investigation, but ICE had some warrants. They went to execute warrants on people suspected of this international money laundering, tax evasion, and when they went in there, right, they were doing their job trying to uncover the scheme, and then all these lunatics out there, because of the NGOs, they started putting it out on social media, and they were starting to put out the messaging that ICE was doing these large-scale immigration raids. So they kind of twisted the message. Bottom line is ICE will continue with their law enforcement partners go after all these illegal criminal aliens around the country. So that's happening, don't get me wrong. But in this case, it started, as Tom Homan has said all over the news, that it started to go after people suspected of this criminal, large-scale criminal investigation, laundering money for the cartels and other illegal activity. So they're twisting the message, Barry.
I'm looking at it right now. It says it's a well-established fact that the Mexican terror cartels are using the garment district in Los Angeles to launder millions of dollars to support their global deadly enterprise. So I'm going to stop in your first paragraph because I want to unpack that right there. If they've been using the garment district in Los Angeles for quite some time to begin it, it's happening right under the nose of Karen Bass and essentially Gavin Newsom. Have they been just looking the other way all this time?
No, it's not that they're looking the other way. They're not engaged in public safety, national security matters. By the way, what we're talking about right now is not a red or a blue issue. It's a red, white, and blue issue. We have the Mexican terror cartels killing our kids at record levels. Look at the babies here. Look at this 1-year-old kid from this Dominican boy from a daycare center death in New York City. There's so many, there's hundreds of thousands of these dead kids because the poison that's coming in here. So Karen Bass and all the politicians should be looking at the safety and security of Americans, not the illegals that are coming here. But Barry, you started out asking me a question about potential terrorists. Of course there is potential terrorists. Look at how many Chinese nationals have come into the America illegally, and look what the Chinese nationals are doing now. They're intricately involved with all aspects of the drug business, including the illegal marijuana cultivation and business, and they're putting out high THC marijuana. They're spraying it with Chinese pesticides. They've killed Americans with these chemicals, and they're on this is an asymmetric war, what we're facing. And allegedly, according to people in the media, the Chinese Communist Party may be involved in funding some of these riots that are going to take place all over America starting, that's already started, but tomorrow, with the No Kings protest, right? So they got to follow the money. They have to figure out who's funding this stuff. I mean, Barry, have you ever seen like bricks being dropped off on a sidewalk and water bottles? It's insanity. And shame on any American that would support this activity.
When you've done your work in the DEA and checking on the drug trade, how hard is it to find out who's funding these people?
Well, very hard, and I'll tell you, right, they use encrypted apps. They use very sophisticated, transfers of money. Like right now, what's happening in America every day all over America, that people are not connecting the dots, they're not paying attention. Chinese nationals are picking up millions of dollars in cash from the Mexican cartels. They're buying property in America, they're buying real estate, they're buying farmland, and they're doing strategic operations to get better intelligence here in America. That being said, what they're doing is they're getting on their phones and they're transferring the cash equivalent. So if they pick up 500 grand in Chicago, they transfer 500 grand from one Chinese bank account to another. Then they put together a $500,000 consumer good order in China. They ship the goods to Mexico, and the Mexicans sell it. They make the equivalent of $4 million. The cartels get paid, and everyone's happy. But it's the Chinese criminals that are doing this, and people are not paying attention. So, yes, it's very difficult to track the money because they're not just putting money in the banks these days. They're doing other types of, cryptocurrency transactions, and they're ordering chemicals to ship to Mexico with the cryptocurrency. It's very, very high speed, very sophisticated. But Barry, what's key is all the encrypted apps are preventing law enforcement in many cases to do their job, because even with court orders, they can't infiltrate the encrypted communications.
So I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I got to ask a question. With all this money happening here in America, is the media, are Democrat politicians, are how many people are being funded by these cartels?
So that's a great question, and you're not putting me on the spot because that's what we have to uncover. I mean, I still have a personal problem when you make $180,000, $190,000 a year as a congressman or congresswoman, and you leave with $50 million in your bank, it doesn't make sense. I was a government employee. I know how it works with taxes and everything else. But here's the thing. We know at the highest levels of the Mexican government, there is corruption, systemic corruption. Like, look at Genaro Garcia Luna. He was in charge of all of the public safety in Mexico. He's now in federal prison because he supported, Chapo Guzman and Sinaloa cartel. Look at the former president of Honduras, right? He's in prison for many, many years, if not life. Juan Hernandez and his congressman brother, because they were helping support the cartel, and they were convicted after trial in New York. This isn't speculation, okay? So now it's just common sense with the amount of money involved in the international drug business that people are on the take. I don't have any specific evidence, but I'm confident that the new administration working, to go after this is going to uncover a lot of devious, schemes that are going on. And they will expose the corrupt politicians if they exist and where they exist.
President Bukele of El Salvador recently did an interview with Tucker Carlson. And in that interview, he basically came out and said, the problem in America is the enemy within. I've heard General Michael Flynn say the same thing. The enemy is within. How bad is it in our own government? I mean, we saw the craziness that guy Padilla did, but I think that's just AstroTurf staging. Deep into the roots of our government, everyone talks about the deep state, but how deep is the deep state?
Well, look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a law enforcement executive who follows the evidence, and I wish the investigators would uncover the evidence, expose it. I mean, look, I don't want to be political, but I'll tell you what, look at the Hunter Biden laptop story. You don't have to look any further, right? How they concealed that, how it was weaponized, how the intelligence community officials came out and said it was Russian, propaganda, et cetera, et cetera. But it's really sad because the mainstream media should have an obligation to tell the public the truth and let the public decide on what they want to do and what political party they want to support. But the truth be told is it's very, very sad what I've seen, especially when I was 15 weeks working as the acting administrator of the DEA and my history inside the government, that people, they talk about national security, public safety, but really look at their actions, okay?
Right.
So right now, we are seeing very significant actions. As Tom Holman has said and other leaders have said, if you impede, ICE's mission with multiple agencies, you're going to be held accountable. And they're proving that that's the case. And that's going to be really important. But we can't have the media twisting the messaging. So that's why I appreciate guys like you that call us on to talk about the facts of what's going on, because hopefully we can spread the word.
And I tell everybody that every single show. It's up to you. Those of you who are watching, don't count on people finding out the information from the news. You're going to have to combat it. So knowing this, and, people think there's a lot of time. That the 2026 midterms are coming. It's not that far away. What will Trump have to do to eradicate the cartels at this point? Or can it even be done?
So, great question. I mean, the president, Scheinbaum, has done some positive things. We've seen increased raids. We've seen increased arrests and seizures. And we do believe that the production of fentanyl has gone down significantly because the cartels are running scared when it comes to President Trump and his policies, declaring them as terrorists. But there's so much more work to be done because there's so much, so much devastation that's going to continue to happen, not just from fentanyl, but from methamphetamine and cocaine production is on the rise. Cocaine distribution is on the rise. The illicit drug supply is tainted with poisonous substances, not just fentanyl, but adenitazine, metanitazine, isonitazine, protonitazine, carfentanil, medetomidine, xylazine. So they're ripping our country apart with chemicals. China's fingerprints are all over it. But to answer your question, it's real simple. If you have a flood in your house and the water is leaking from the ceiling and destroying your house, the first thing you have to do is shut off the main valve, right?
Right.
So the cartels are the main valve of the destruction of our country with drugs. So we have to be way more aggressive. Like Pete Hegseth has said, all tools are on the table right now to go after the cartels. Yes, we want the Mexican government to be cooperative, and we've seen signs of that. I mean, look what they did in February. They sent up 29 of the biggest leaders in Mexico, including the RCQ, who killed Kiki Camarena, the DEA agent, 40 years ago. They sent them to America to face justice. That's a good step.
Okay.
But if they don't come on board, President Trump has offered DOD support. We need to take, in my view, unilateral action to decimate the command and control structure of the cartels. Because remember, Barry, it's real simple. And anybody watching the show, here's the deal. If you took ISIS, Hezbollah, and Al-Qaeda together and you asked how many Americans have they killed, it wouldn't even come close to how many Americans that the cartels are killing. So why are they not being treated just like terrorists? We went after ISIS with drone technology. We destroyed their command and control infrastructure. We need to take the same, successful techniques, and we need to go after them the same way. Yes, I would love to join forces with the president of Mexico, but that's a hard decision. President Trump has gone above and beyond to try to get her on board. So we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to that.
All right, so they're making the early introductions to the dignitaries, and so we're just going to go ahead and cut to that. Again, if you guys have never been here before, I take a number of different feeds, and hopefully whichever feed has got the best audio, doesn't go down, is the one we'll take. All right, so let's cut to this. Okay, so, oops, wrong one. All right, here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, accompanied by the Second Lady of the United States, Usha Vance, and their 3 children. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and First Lady Melania Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, to honor America, would you please rise for the singing of our national anthem?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's
Before we even had a country, we had an army.
They started as a small, unorganized group of shop owners and farmers, but they fought the most powerful army in the entire world to a standstill in Concord, Lexington, and Bunker Hill.
Then our Continental Congress chose George Washington as general of our Continental Army.
But it wasn't until 1 year later, on July 4th, 1776, that news arrived of the signing of our Declaration of Independence.
Now we had a new army and a new nation.
With little gunpowder, no shoes, bloody feet, few cannons, little training, and even less food.
Valley Forge started in December. They went into winter camp in December of 1777. Approximately 2,000 Americans died that winter of disease.
They lived through hell, but they never ever gave up. Not this army, not this first American army.
Finally, Washington and his army arrived here at Yorktown, where they had General Cornwallis and his powerful British army trapped in this city against the sea.
All of the preparation that Washington has learned through the course of those 6.5 years meets its full force here at Yorktown, and he employs it brilliantly.
Sailing from the Caribbean, the French Navy arrived and took on the British fleet.
Washington decided to make his move. Our men began digging to get closer and closer to the fort, finally getting within rifle and cannon range. Naturally, George Washington chose to set off our first cannon shot.
The British had two small forts in front of the main fort. They were called Redoubts 9 and 10.
Then, on the moonless night of October 14th, the American and French forces attacked the redoubts. The hand-to-hand combat with bayonets, knives, and fists was bloody, to say the least. But within an hour, we were victorious.
And as the sun came up the next day, Cornwallis looked out and realized he was in serious trouble. So he prepared an all-out, desperate counterattack.
It didn't work, and the British were forced to surrender.
We were supposed to lose to the best army and the largest and most professional navy in the world.
But our young army had won the war and our freedom, the freedom we hold so dear. And 250 years later, for what started as a ragtag group of shop owners, has now become the most powerful army in the world.
Today, many things are very different from that army here at Yorktown, but one thing remains the same. An undying passion, guts, and love for our country remains deep in the heart of today's army. When I look into their faces, you can see it. That will never change. God bless the United States Army, and God bless the United States of America.
You know almost everybody. So we're back again, the Army 250th Parade. As we're showing it to you on C-SPAN, Lieutenant General Eifler, you saw the starts of it. What were your impressions?
Fired up. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I think it's great as we saw Trevor Breedenkamp, Major General Trevor Breedenkamp, leading the as the commander of troops, the parade with Sergeant Major Vern Daly from the Military District of Washington. They do all these events, but this is going to be a highlight of their career, being able to lead the Army through the streets of D.C. And as the Secretary of the Army invoked,
talk about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, our parade is officially underway. Up first, internationally renowned as one of the world's finest professional music organizations, the United States Army Band, Pershing Zone. They are the premier music organization of the U.S. Army, our nation's most senior service. Stationed at Joint Base Meyer-Henderson Hall, Virginia, it plays an important musical role in events of national and international significance. They were founded back in 1922 by Army Chief of Staff John J. Pershing. They're led today by Colonel Bruce R. Pulver and Drum Major Rob Moore. Today, Pershing Zone is playing a melody entitled The Army Goes Rolling Along. This was actually written in 1908 by the then Lieutenant Edmund Louis Snitz Gruber, which was a descendant of Franz Gruber, who composed Silent Night. It was originally written to be the 5th Artillery Regimental song titled The Caissons Go Rolling Along, and in 1956 the lyrics were revised by Harold Arberg as the official song of the U.S. Army, and then retitled The Army Goes Rolling Along. Pershing Zone carries on its century-old legacy, playing a march that brings pride to every soldier, the Army Song. The 3rd Infantry Regiment, the oldest active duty unit in the U.S. Army. Established back in 1784, the unit was dubbed the Old Guard by Major General Winfield Scott during a victory parade in Mexico City after the Mexican War. It is the U.S. Army's official ceremonial unit and presidential escort, conducting year-round tactical training to ensure the highest standards and utmost discipline of its soldiers. The unit routinely represents the U.S. Army and our nation in official ceremonies, major sporting events, and their own, the U.S. Army's own Twilight Tattoo. The Old Guard also maintains 24-hour vigil of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, while also conducting funeral services honoring our fallen heroes in Arlington National Cemetery. The regiment's 50 campaign streamers stand as a testament to its long, faithful service to our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, the 3rd Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard. In 1775, the shot heard round the world at Lexington and Concord sparked a revolution, uniting 13 colonies and forging a continental army from farmers and frontiersmen. Against the odds, they turned the tide at Trenton and Saratoga, survived Valley Forge, and at Yorktown forced a British surrender, securing independence and giving birth to the United States of America. Before radios and field phones, sound was the signal. In the Continental Army, fifes and drums carried commands across the chaos of battle, telling soldiers when to advance, when to retreat, eat, even when to rest. That legacy actually lives on today with the U.S. Army Fife and Drum Corps, part of the 3rd Infantry Regiment known as the Old Guard. Founded back in 1960, they're the only unit of their kind in the armed forces. Performing in uniforms patterned after those worn by General Washington's musicians. Playing period instruments with patriotic precision, they bring history to life, sharing the sound and spirit of the Revolution through more than 500 performances each year, both at home and around the world, too. The Old Guard, Fife and Drum Corps, everybody. And now, from high above, ladies and gentlemen, celebrating 250 years, your United States Army parachute team, the Golden Knights. Descending at over 120 miles an hour, the Golden Knights are using flexible wing gliders to maintain their formation. They open their main canopy simultaneously and negotiate the softest possible landing. I'll tell you, they can't hear you, but they sure can see you. You can give them a great big wave, ladies and gentlemen. The Golden Knights, the finest parachuting team in the world. Fort Sumter in 1861, a nation divided. Over 4 brutal years, nearly 2 million soldiers fought to preserve the Union. Among them, 5 future presidents and the first recipients of a brand new military decoration, the Medal of Honor. With independence won, our nation's westward expansion began. The Army moved in step, guarding settlers as native scouts lit the way. Immigrants joined the cause, and the Buffalo Soldiers etched a legacy of grit and honor across the American frontier. As they march by, a soldier's uniform signals their duty, their role, and their readiness. And by the late 1850s, official regulations outlined distinct looks, shaping the Army's identity and function across the force. Soldiers were issued 2 coats. One, a short sack coat for work and battle, with brass buttons and colored trim that marked their rank. Well, by war's end, that rugged sack coat became the soldier's uniform of choice. As the war escalated, volunteer enlistment surged. Congress authorized support for a force of up to 500,000 new troops, answering the call to preserve the Union. As they march by, representing the Civil War era of our nation's history, is the 4th Infantry Division based out of Fort Carson, Colorado.
I'm not sure what that was.
From Fort Cavazos, Texas, home of legends, the 1st Cavalry Division rides with pride. Born from the thunder of horse cavalry traditions of the Civil War, the 1st team forged its reputation on the front lines of history. They stormed Manila with the flying column, charged into Pyongyang as the first to breach the line and face the brutal crucible of Ia Drang, the first of 13 named campaigns in Vietnam where they proved their mettle. Today, that same warrior spirit lives on. You'll know the name, and you'll know them by their iconic cav hats, elite soldiers, and cutting-edge equipment. Tough, fit, fearless. The 1st Cavalry Division is a lethal, disciplined force that stands ready to fight and win anywhere, anytime, and the legacy rides on. This is the Cav. Martin. In 1914, years of escalating competition between European alliances culminate in the outbreak of the First World War. The 2 sides engage in a savage war of attrition, defined by opposing trenches, barbed wire, poison gas, and mass casualties. The United States initially maintained its neutrality, but was eventually drawn into the conflict in 1917. Despite having less than 130,000 soldiers at the beginning, the Army eventually grew to over 4 million, with nearly 2 million soldiers serving in Europe. In 6 months of fighting, nearly 50,000 Americans lost their lives, with another 190,000 wounded. The guns fell silent with the armistice of November 11th, 1918. We continue on with more USA World War I rolling stock. This 1918 Dodge touring car was part of the legendary 1919 Transcontinental Convoy. 3,251 miles and 62 grueling days across the Lincoln Highway. Now remember, no pavement, no GPS, and no power steering. Just grit, determination, and the drive to push Army mobility into the future. This car literally helped pave the way for the roads we rely on today, and reminds us when the Army moves, the nation follows. The 1918 Dodge Touring Car. Headquartered in New York, this is the 42nd Infantry Division Band. At the start of World War I, the 42nd Infantry Division was formed with troops from 27 National Guard units, stretching across the country like a rainbow. Composed of skilled musicians from all walks of life and professional occupations, they perform a variety of musical genres. Though their mission is primarily a musical one, the members were ordered into active federal service back in 2004 in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom 3. The band has also served in support of numerous state active duty missions, including cleanup efforts following Hurricane Sandy, distribution support during COVID-19, and recently, support for New York State Corrections. Commanded by Chief Warrant Officer 2 Ethan Wagner and led by Drum Major Sergeant First Class Drew Gans, the band is performing Over There, written in 1917 by Broadway composer and recipient of the Congressional Gold Medal George M. Cohan. Representing the World War I era is the 82nd Airborne Division, based out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. You'll notice the unit is wearing replica World War I uniforms signifying the soldiers who served our nation during this time. When the Americans entered the Great War, our soldiers, under the command of General Blackjack Pershing, hit the trenches in the new standard. It was the olive drab winter service uniform. Now on their heads you'll see a steel helmet with sand-textured paint built to deflect deadly shrapnel from above. Not bulletproof, but battle tough. Nicknamed the Pershing boot, on their feet was the M918, 1918 French boot. It was designed to survive the brutal grind of trench warfare. And on their backs, the field pack, rations, ammo, first aid, and a gas mask. Everything a doughboy needed to fight and to win. Incidentally, the 42nd Infantry Division was deployed to heavy combat abroad and then deployed again in World War II, ultimately liberating the Dachau concentration camp. The 42nd responded to the terrorist attacks on 9/11. Later, with the war on terrorism, the rainbow stretched across the world again, deploying in Iraq and Afghanistan. Thundering into view, the pride of Fort Sill, the U.S. Army Artillery Half Section. This is literally powered by horsepower and heritage. This elite ceremonial unit honors the legacy of the Army's horse-drawn artillery. With precision, discipline, and 6 majestic horses pulling a vintage 1918 caisson, the half section keeps tradition alive and rolling strong. Representing the power, pride, and precision of America's field artillery, this is Fort Sill's finest, ladies and gentlemen. Special thanks to our sponsor, Form Energy. World War II, a global fight for freedom. In history's darkest hour, the United States Army was on the front lines. From the beaches of Normandy to the islands of the Pacific, the greatest generation faced down tyranny and turned the tide. From bombers to fighters to transports, U.S. Army aircraft started to thunder across the skies in World War II. And take a look up there, ladies and gentlemen. Flying overhead right now. They are fast, they are fierce, and famously used in the Doolittle raid over Tokyo. Leading up front, the mighty B-25 Mitchell. Up next, the Cadillac of the sky, the P-51 Mustang. From the sky, we're back down on the ground. In World War II, one vehicle led the charge, the legendary quarter-ton 4x4 command recon vehicle, the Jeep. You might have a Jeep in your driveway, but not like this. The U.S. Army truck quarter-ton 4x4 command reconnaissance, better known as the Jeep, was an iconic vehicle of World War II and was the world's first mass-produced four-wheel drive vehicle. The Army used the Jeep for almost every military activity, including command vehicles, scout cars, and medical ambulances. Fast, rugged, the Jeep became a symbol of American ingenuity. From Fort Bragg, North Carolina, this is the 82nd Airborne Ceremonial Band. The 82nd received the nickname All-Americans after a contest as it represented the diverse origins of its members from every state. This name remains today symbolized by their iconic AA patch. Fort Bragg's finest, ladies and gentlemen. Give them a big round of applause, the 82nd Airborne Ceremonial Band. In a global fight like World War II, the U.S. Army knew our troops needed more than courage. They needed innovation. Uniforms evolved for every environment, but olive drab remained the mark of the American soldier. Shaped by lessons from the trenches of World War I, the Army introduced two battlefield essentials: the M1 helmet, tough, stable, and built to protect under fire, and the M1 Garand rifle, powerful and fast. It gave American troops a very clear edge. General George S. Patton called the M1 rifle the greatest battle implement ever designed, and history proved him right. The 82nd Airborne Division. The unit is best known for their bravery on D-Day, when 12,000 parachute and glider troops destroyed German supply lines after fighting for 33 days straight. The 101st Airborne Division, based out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky, traces its lineage back to 1918 when it first established as the 101st Division. Known for their ability to rapidly deploy across the world, the unit has held a crucial role in operations since its inception. From parachuting behind enemy lines on D-Day to fine modern warfare. In the 50s, the Screaming Eagles stood tall at home, protecting the Little Rock Nine during the fight for civil rights. In recent decades, they've been sent across the world with stints as far as the Middle East, where they took part in Operation Desert Storm and participated extensively in the war on terrorism in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Screaming Eagles continue to lead the way as tomorrow's division in today's Army. The iconic Sherman tank is here, ladies and gentlemen. It was the cornerstone of the U.S. Armed Forces, showing its military might in World War II. It became one of the most influential tank designs of the 20th century. The M4 tank was nicknamed the Sherman tank after Civil War General William Tecumseh Sherman. Actually, it was named by the British. With almost 50,000 produced during World War II, the Sherman tank was in active service until 1957. In World War II, the M16 half-track was a force to be reckoned with. It was a self-propelled anti-aircraft weapon with speed, firepower, and grit. Nicknamed the Meat Chopper, its quad 50 caliber mount could unleash 2,300 rounds a minute. Quite devastating. It served through Korea, Vietnam, and beyond, and remains in use in U.S. allies to this day. The M16 half-track brings the fight wherever it rolls. The U.S. Army Transportation Corps motto states, "Nothing happens until something moves." That was never more true than with this. Look at this, the 2.5-ton Chevrolet Deuce and a Half. It can move up to 10,000 pounds of cargo and was the backbone of the Red Ball Express that kept the Allies supplied after D-Day in World War II. The Korean War, often referred to as the Forgotten War, began on June 25, 1950, with the North Korean Army's invasion of South Korea. A coalition of South Korea, the United States, and other United Nations members defeated the invasion and advanced into North Korea. The coalition fought and defeated 2 Chinese offensives in the spring of 1951. Armistice negotiations began shortly after that defeat in July of 1951 until the armistice was signed 2 years later in 1953. Combat consisted of small attacks, raids, and patrolling. During this war, the United States deployed approximately 6.8 million military forces to the Korean Peninsula. Special thanks to our sponsor, Coinbase. The M151 kept rolling along as the lightweight, high-mobility general-purpose vehicle replacing the famed World War II Jeep back in 1961. Officially named the Military Utility Tactical Truck, or MUT, most servicemen generally referred to it as a Jeep. The vehicle spanned more than 40 years in 4 manufacturers and were everywhere that the Army was deployed. Another rolled by earlier, and at 2.5 tons, this Deuce and a Half, the M35A2 classic military transport truck, was a mainstay of the U.S. Army for decades, particularly during the Vietnam War and Operation Iraqi Freedom. The Deuce and a Half proved its value moving cargo, supplies, and soldiers. Its capabilities include up to 5,000 pounds off-road and 10,000 pounds on-road, making it ideal for moving just about anything. In the jungles of Vietnam, the U.S. Army faced a new kind of war. Helicopters became the new workhorses of battle, delivering troops, firepower, and supplies into some of the most unforgiving terrain on Earth. This is the U.S. Army in Vietnam, the era of air mobility, fierce firefights, and unwavering brotherhood. And over the music, marching through, The roar of these legendary Army helicopters takes to the air. Flying overhead right now, they help define the Vietnam War. That staccato beat of the rotor blades was a welcome sound to many troops mired in combat. From transport and medevac to close air support and reconnaissance, they brought the fight to the front and pulled the wounded to safety. The OH-6 Cayuse scouted the terrain with unmatched agility. The AH-1 Cobra, also nicknamed the Snake, brought serious firepower. Its slim design, as you can see here, helped it survive and thrive in hostile environments to protect soldiers below. And the icon of the era, the UH-1 Huey, the first turbine-powered helicopter in service with the U.S. military. There was nothing the Huey couldn't do. General support, air assault, cargo transport, medic evacuation, and ground attack missions. The Cayuse, Cobra, and Huey, ladies and gentlemen, three iconic Army symbols in the sky. The 1st Cavalry Division Band, based out of Fort Cavazos, Texas, has played a vital role in U.S. military history. Since its origins back in 1855 as the band of the 2nd Cavalry, it has supported operations from the Civil War to Desert Storm. Over time, it's evolved into a powerful force using music to strengthen bonds between soldiers and engage with communities. From World War II in Korea to the Vietnam War in Bosnia, the 1st Teen Band has enhanced morale and upheld the division's enduring legacy. Today, the band continues its mission using music to shape perceptions, foster trust, and promote national Army and division interests. Standing ready to serve, it remains an enduring symbol of the 1st Cavalry Division's legacy and commitment to duty. The band performs Hit the Leather and Ride, a march composed by Captain Robert Meredith Wilson. This piece reflects the cavalry's transition from horses to mechanized warfare, capturing the speed, the resilience, and the tradition of the division. From Fort Cavazos, Texas, everybody, the 1st Cavalry Division Band. The U.S. Army deployed large numbers of troops in support of the Vietnam War. The first contingent of U.S. Army advisors arrived in Vietnam in the late 1950s, and that quickly grew to a small team of around 100 soldiers, which then expanded to more than 600 over the next decade. As the war intensified, troops' numbers quickly grew as the war between the South Vietnamese government and the communist insurgents supported by North Vietnam intensified. By January 1969, more than 364,200 soldiers organized around 7 divisions and 20 separate combat brigades. The United States began withdrawing its forces in July of 1969, and the last Army combat unit left South Vietnam in August of '71. The last U.S. combat soldier came home March 1973, while a small number of non-combat personnel remained until April 1975. Representing the Vietnam War era is the 101st Airborne Division based out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. The unit is wearing replica Vietnam War uniforms signifying the soldiers who served our nation during this time. Blistering heat, thick humidity, and unforgiving terrain demanded uniform innovation. And the Army, they delivered. New lightweight uniforms were constructed to move with the soldier. The M16 replaced the M1 Garand, calling for redesigned ammo gear and faster reloads in combat. Body armor got smarter, jackets and trousers got lighter, and field equipment was reimagined to meet the mission head-on. Gone were the heavy Mickey Mouse boots, replaced by canvas tropical combat boots that offered better grip, faster drying, and all-day endurance. Special thanks to our sponsor, Oracle. When Saddam Hussein's Iraq invaded Kuwait in August 1990, the U.S. Army deployed to Saudi Arabia to deter further Iraqi aggression in the region for what was known as Operation Desert Shield. By the fall, more than 750,000 troops comprising U.S. service members and coalition partners from more than 30 countries had assembled in the Saudi Arabian desert. In mid-January 1991, the U.S.-led coalition began Operation Desert Storm, which kicked off with an intensive air campaign designed to knock out key Iraqi infrastructure and weaken Iraqi forces. The ground offensive was launched in early 1991, where military forces overwhelmingly destroyed enemy tanks and vehicles. After only 100 hours of ground combat, coalition troops liberated Kuwait, and the Gulf War ended with Iraq's surrender. From Fort Riley, Kansas, this is the 1st Infantry Division, one of the Army's most storied divisions. Nicknamed the Big Red One because of the distinctive red on their unit patch, as the oldest continuously serving division in the U.S. Army, the unit has participated in every major operation since World War I, living up to its motto, no mission too difficult, no sacrifice too great, duty first. The 1st Infantry Division was originally established as the 1st Expeditionary Division in 1917 and spearheaded the American Expeditionary Forces in France during World War I. In World War II, the Fighting First stormed Omaha Beach on D-Day and liberated Nazi concentration camps. The highly decorated unit has had 37 members of the Big Red One awarded the Medal of Honor. In Washington, D.C., the 1st Division Monument stands in President's Park, memorializing those who died while serving in the 1st Infantry Division. Ladies and gentlemen, they are the Big Red One, the 1st Infantry Division. More military rolling stock. During Operation Desert Storm, the M2 Bradley fighting vehicle proved its value on the battlefield. It is fast, it is tough, and it is lethal. Named for General Omar Bradley, a leader from West Point's famed class of 1916, the Bradley was built to carry troops into combat with protection and power. Armed with a 25mm chain-driven cannon and twin-tube launched optically tacked wire-guided missiles, it played a critical role in clearing the way during the ground assault into Iraq. While the Paladin looks and sounds like a tank, it is technically a self-propelled howitzer that was first introduced back in the 1960s. Over the years, it's been upgraded to perform in versatile battlefields from Vietnam to the Soviet Union to Iraq. In the Gulf War, no division hit harder or moved faster than the 1st Armored. The 1st Armored Division, nicknamed Old Ironsides, is the oldest, most recognizable armored division in the United States Army. As part of the buildup for World War II, cavalry and reconnaissance units were brought together to form the 1st Armored Division in 1940. In the Gulf War, no division hit harder or moved faster than the 1st Armored. Old Ironsides really led the way. During Desert Storm, they engaged in some of the largest tank battles in Army history that were decisive victories, shattering enemy formations. Based in Fort Bliss, Texas, America's Tank Division is currently supporting missions in 20 countries across 5 continents. From World War II to today, Old Ironsides remains battle-proven and always ready. First used in Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, the M119 howitzer brought precision firepower to the front lines. Lighter and more mobile than larger artillery, it was built for the infantry brigade, able to fire high into the air or directly at the target depending on the mission. Whether used in battery formation or as a standalone support weapon, the M119 delivered reliable, responsible fire when it mattered most. Still in service today, including on the front lines in Ukraine, it remains a trusted part of the Army's arsenal. Special thanks to our sponsor, UFC. September 11, 2001, terrorists destroyed the World Trade Center in New York City and struck the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. using commercial airliners. In response, the U.S. launched the global war on terrorism. The U.S. would stop potential threats around the world and take the fight to terrorist groups and the nations that back them. The Army immediately deployed forces to Afghanistan to destroy Osama bin Laden's al-Qaeda terrorist organization and depose his sponsors, the ruling Taliban. The 2003 President Bush expanded the war to Iraq. Soldiers and other armed services overthrew Iraq's dictator Saddam Hussein. The fight to stabilize Iraq and prevent terrorist groups from overthrowing its new government continues to this day. The campaign in Afghanistan lasted until 2021 when U.S. forces withdrew and the Taliban returned to power. Over the course of the two-decade conflict, over 2 million servicemen and women, less than 1% of the American population, deployed in support of the global war on terrorism. Most of those who served were members of the United States Army.
That they could decimate the cartels pretty quickly because basically
I meant to do that.
My motivation, I think it follows in line. I think with what my family's done is kind of a sense of duty to serve our country and give back since it's given us so much.
I'm a very, let's say, timid person, but definitely helped me become a more confident person.
Working with a group and my peers, it really shows how much working with a team can strengthen you.
All right, ready to go? Ready to go? I derive a lot of purpose from serving others. I think serving something bigger than myself gets me out of bed every day. If you follow it up, keep on.
I definitely pushed myself further than I ever thought I could go.
I joined the military service because I want to deploy. That's my main goal, is deploy, deploy, deploy.
If we get the call, we have to go somewhere, we'll do what needs to be done. That's just the way we operate here.
This is one of the few jobs in the nation where we all take an oath to say, I'm willing to put my life on the line for you, and they're willing to put their life on the line for me.
This is what we train for. This is what we want to do. My team leaders and squad leaders, they know exactly what to do. Check equipment, check weapons, check ammo.
We're always ready to deploy within 18 hours and handle the mission at task. We jump so frequently so that our jump masters and the paratroopers are ready to deploy.
I'm very passionate about being a jump master. The paratroopers, they see you and, they believe in you. I love to instill that confidence with my passion into those paratroopers. It's a rush. It's great.
Drop them first for personnel drop.
we honor 250 years of valor and glory and triumph by the greatest fighting force ever to walk the face of the earth, the United States Army. For 2.5 centuries, our soldiers have marched into the raging fires of battle and obliterated America's enemies.
I love the Army. It is a great place to set yourself up for success, to prepare yourself for the future.
God bless you, God bless our soldiers, and God bless the U.S. Army.
Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Alaska is the home to America's Arctic Angels, who execute expeditionary operations worldwide, conduct multi-domain operations in the Indo-Pacific Theater and the Arctic, and on order decisively defeat any adversary in extreme cold weather, mountainous and high-latitude environments through large-scale combat operations. The Angels are the Army's only Arctic division. Masters of Arctic warfare, the 11th serves worldwide in all climates. Established in November of 1942, the Angels of the 11th Airborne Division led the way in the Philippines during World War II and spearheaded an amphibious invasion of Luzon and distinguished themselves during the liberation of Manila. After periods spent inactive and stationed in Germany from 1963 to 65, the division operated as the 11th Air Assault Division with the mission of testing and refining the Army's helicopter-centric air mobility doctrine. Activated once again in June of 2022, they remain dedicated to defending America's interests throughout the Arctic, in Alaska, and beyond. The 11th Airborne Division, America's Arctic Angels. Linked to America's long-standing citizen soldier tradition. Organizationally, the reserve's roots lie in the Medical Reserve Corps, established back in 1908 to provide a ready reserve of medical manpower. This organization was folded into the new offices of the Officers Reserve Corps in 1917. Reserve organizations furnished crucial manpower to the Army during World War I and were merged into 1920 into the Organization of Organized Reserve. During World War II, the Army activated 26 organized reserve infantry divisions, and roughly a quarter of the Army's officer corps came from the reserves during the conflict. During the Korean War, the Organized Reserve Corps was reorganized and redesignated the U.S. Army Reserve. The Army Reserve has since served as a vital source of manpower for the force during times of need, gradually transitioning from a strategic force to an operational force in response to the pressures of the war on terrorism. In the 170,000 Army Reserve soldiers and 11,000 civilians serving their home communities, and when needed, they can quickly mobilize. The Army can't deploy, they can't fight or win without the Army Reserve. They are an important component of Army readiness. Let's have a big hand for the Army Reserve. Today, tomorrow's Army looks to increase safety and survivability, create efficiency, and streamline processes. The Striker.
Okay, everybody, we're going to jump over to Rumble. If you haven't been here before, everything will be pretty much the same, except we're going to be on Rumble now for the rest of the broadcast. So we've been 3 hours here, going to jump over and spread some love on Rumble. Just go to that link right there. There's nothing to sign up for. You don't have to register. You don't have to buy anything. Just put that link in your browser, in your phone, or whatever, and you're there. So it's going to happen like very quickly here. Usually I go to a break, but I'm not going to go to a break because they're not going to a break. Well, actually, it looks like they do have a break. No, there's no break. So you need to jump over now, because it's going to be a seamless type thing, and then this is going to go off. All right.